They worried that the VA is going to come in and take their job away. I'd gone through probably 6 or 7 property managers here locally that just couldn't hack it. The question is, if you need help and your business is drowning, I see a lot of that with the younger generation. They avoid confrontation or they're very uncomfortable with confrontation. We started with 3 to answer our leasing calls, all out of the Philippines. And then we discovered that they had really good skills. We hired some VAs to really just focus on the phones. And then we started having them do some of the repeatable admin work that a local property manager can fall behind on when they try to start a business, because they get overwhelmed, they spend too much money, or they're worried they're not going to make money. And a lot of times they're just overworking themselves and they end up hating it. If you're a great salesperson, you probably are really, look, I'm a really good salesperson and I'm terrible at paperwork. Should have done this 3 years ago.
Welcome to the New World Podcast, where we delve into the ever-changing and accelerating pace of global change and its impact on our lives. I'm your host, John Paul Flores, broadcasting live from the New World Studio. Today, we're diving into the world of AI and automation. As an enthusiast and expert in lead generation, I will guide you through understanding and leveraging these technologies for your business and for your personal use. And don't forget, AI and automation might be unstoppable forces, but that doesn't mean you are powerless. Tune in to learn how to make them work for you and not the other way around. But first, let's meet our guest. Welcome to the New World Podcast, where we navigate the changing world around us. I'm your host, John Paul Flores, specializing in lead generation and AI automation, here to help you understand how our world is changing and what it means for you. In this episode, we have Noel Pulanco, a leading expert in virtual teams and business automations. Noel shares his journey into the industry, from his early experiences to how he built his expertise in managing remote teams and leveraging virtual assistants for business growth. He discusses the wide range of services VAs offers, how they help businesses streamline operations, and the significant impact they have on efficiency and scalability. Tune in for a deep dive into the future of remote work, virtual assistants, and how businesses can unlock new levels of success. And just for your information, Noel has been in this industry before any of you even knows it existed. So it's a very great talk. Noel, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, John. Great to see you.
Before we begin on the in-depth questions, because I do have some, do you mind giving us a quick intro on who Noel is, what's your expertise, experiences, and what keeps you busy these days?
Sure. I'm Noel Pulanco, called Noel when you speak Spanish or French. I'm very popular around Christmas time with that. But my background, at least professionally, the last 20 years has been in real estate with the main focus in property management. So through that sphere is where we initially learned about virtual assistants and remote teams. So that's kind of how our story evolved into what we do there. But I'm a married guy. My son is a United States Marine. My daughter is about to be, she's a senior in high school, will go to Northern Arizona University next year. Our property management company, HomeQuick, is based here in Phoenix, Arizona. We manage about 230 residential properties for single property owners, a few investors, those things. I'm a licensed realtor in Arizona, and I've been doing, like I said, property management for about, I think, going on 18 years now.
You've been doing property management for 18 years, as you said. How many of those years have you used VAs, and how many of those years have you started your company?
So we found out about virtual assistants through some of our other property management friends through a national association called NARPM, the National Association of Residential Property Managers. So this is an association where we meet with, mingle with, share ideas with other property managers from across the country. We're members of this. I've been a local chapter president of this association twice. And we learned about virtual assistants from one of our friends in Atlanta about 15 years ago, and we started with 3 to answer our leasing calls, all out of the Philippines. And then we discovered that they had really good skills, and maybe when the phone wasn't ringing, what else could we have them do? So we started assigning them other roles within the company, some admin type things. And then at our next NARPM event 6 months later, we were talking to some more folks, and the VA thing was becoming more popular. And we said, hey, at this time, we've got about 6 working for us now. And people started asking, well, how did you do it? How did you train? How do you communicate? What about equipment? What about internet connection? So all of those things we pretty well figured out just by going through it ourselves. So kind of the light bulb went off when a couple people said, hey, can you help us onboard some VAs and maybe train them for us? We said, well, we can just do this as a business. So the last at least 12 years, we've really been focused on hiring virtual assistants for specifically the property management industry. We know how to train them on 5 of the main softwares. We know all the processes that property managers do. We know how to get equipment. We know how to test for internet speeds. We know what to ask for and what skill sets we need when we're interviewing somebody. So it was just a natural transition to do that. And now we've got about 170 employees working for probably about 110 companies across the country right now. We've recently expanded out of just the property management business. We've now got an insurance company, an HVAC, which is an air conditioning company here locally in Phoenix, a medical sales team, an attorney, and even that National Association, NARPM, is using some of our folks to help with invoicing and accounting for some of the local chapters. So long answer, but that's what it is.
12 years ago, man, nobody was talking about VAs, even here in the Philippines, it just became a buzzword about 5-7 years ago. So you were really ahead of the industry in terms of starting your company.
Well, we really saw that on the ground floor. And like I said, at NARPM, and I keep going back to that because, again, that's where we learned about it. Yeah. And we do 2 conventions a year, right? So we bring in everybody from across the country twice a year. We represent there now not only as a property manager, but also as a vendor. So I set up a booth there, and we're meeting new property managers and old. And we have a booth where we're selling our virtual assistant service to folks. About 5-7 years ago, let's say 7, there was 3 of us doing this in the whole conference. 10 years ago, there was only 2 of us. 12 years ago, there was 1. So we were like second. Then there was 3. All of which we're good friends with and, friendly competitors. But this last one I went to 2 months ago, there was 13 companies selling virtual assistants as a service, whether freelance or managed virtual assistants like we do it. 13 different companies in that same space, in that same room, at that same conference, that 10 years ago, there was 3 of us. So you're not wrong. I mean, it's totally expanded. The real estate and the property management industry totally understands how to utilize and how this is useful. And the people that don't are probably new to property management. But yeah, from going from 3 vendors like me to 13 is pretty wild.
As someone who works with virtual teams, what are the main benefits that you see is, when we are working with them instead of working with somebody local?
So, of course, the number one thing for us is cost here in the States. We can still give someone in the Philippines or even Mexico a great income and a great job, but it just costs less for us here. So the number one thing is affordability. What we've come to find, and the reason we kind of reached out and started with the whole virtual assistant thing is I'd gone through probably 6 or 7 property managers here locally that just couldn't hack it, didn't like the job, didn't want to show up, have Americanized attitudes, Americanized work ethic, and it just wasn't working locally. So I'm like, well, what the heck can we do? I'm tired of retraining people all the time that are doing the job and just hate it. We said, what if we can piece some of it out? So one of the hardest things back then was we had 300 properties we were managing, so maybe 20 vacancies at a time. So the phone was ringing a lot. It's nonstop, people calling, wanting to see houses. Now, this is kind of before we had electronic lockboxes where we could really kind of streamline how that showing process is. So I needed people to answer the phone, and it was wearing out my property managers doing that. So like I said, we hired some VAs to really just focus on the phones. And then we started having them do some of the repeatable admin work that a local property manager can fall behind on. It's that day-to-day stuff like invoicing, scheduling, follow-up calls, answering the phone, turning on utilities, dealing with an HOA company. A lot of the things that just kind of happen every day as a property manager, there's literally 100 things we do. But if you're stuck dealing with the problem, you've got a problem with the tenant or something breaks and you've got to deal with a vendor, a lot of things can happen that can throw you off of your path throughout the day. So having VAs that can really focus on answer the phone while it's ringing. When it's not, I want you to do the invoicing or some of this data entry stuff. So we really figured out that it's a great way to never fall behind. So now I've got Jason, my property manager here locally. He deals with all the big problems while my VAs are doing everything in the background. So we don't miss appointments. We don't miss calls. Invoicing is done on time. We're doing it every day. So we're not playing catch up at the end of the week. All of that day-to-day admin stuff, they've got plenty of time to do so that when Jason's off or if Jason gets busy or if he's got to run out to see a property and it's going to take 2 hours, things are still happening in the background because I've got a team that is constantly working it.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions, or I don't want to say misconception, one of the main things people overlook when they want to hire someone or hire a VA, and one of the biggest things in their mind is that what happens if I just don't have that much influx and people call me, they're not gonna be working on something, maybe I'm wasting my money. But yeah, as you said, there's the backlogs of what things they could do when they're not doing the active thing, as you said, when answering calls.
Well, I see it all the time. I mean, I've got local vendors here like handyman, landscapers, AC companies until my favorite one, Barbara, hired a person. They're really good with their hands. They're good out in the field. But every Sunday night, I'm getting a bunch of invoices so that they can try to get paid by Monday. So I know that they're not handling their back office stuff on time or even properly because they're spending most of their time out in the field. And if it's a smaller company, it's probably a husband and wife team, maybe a guy and his son, and one of them's trying to pretend that they're the office admin person while at the same time being the salesperson, while at the same time being out on job sites, right? So really in that vendor space, I think is it's lacking that they're not aware of how amazing, how many great employees you can find that can do this stuff for you at a low cost for us and actually make you more money because you're not missing appointments, you're not missing a sales call. You've got a little bit of freedom of life again. You don't have to be invoicing on a Sunday night. Just to go back on one other thing that I missed in the last question, when I was talking about the work ethic and in hiring people local, look, we all want to hire local if we can. I love hired Americans. My daughter and son are both. It was hard for me to get hired without a college degree, even though I had a ton of sales expertise and management expertise. There's a lot of companies that overlook me because I never graduated college. But one of the things I really love about, especially in the Philippines, is the work ethic and their enjoyment and their want to. They really want to have a great job. We take great care of the VAs that work for HomeQuick, my property management company. And we want to make sure all of our clients are taking care of the VAs that they hire from us because they really do want to work and they know that it's a good job and they appreciate it. Something that unfortunately here in America we're lacking a little bit these days, especially with the younger generation. They just don't appreciate an opportunity. They want to get paid a lot for doing very little. And we've really seen both with our Philippines and with our Mexico teams, they really want to work and they want to earn it and they're happy when they show up and they get worried when they make a mistake. We say mistakes happen. You're still people, but they really want to. So that's the culture shift is a major thing as well that I think people don't realize until they've had a new virtual employee for a while.
Do you think it's the age thing, or because probably you're working with someone in the Philippines who is much older?
I think a lot. So I think I'm considered Gen Z because I'm almost 50. People my age, I mean, we got up, we went to work. I don't know how I've convinced my daughter to do it. She's only a senior in high school, but she works more than she wants to, but she also wants to make that money and she has that responsibility in her. She's also a straight A student, right? But there's a lot of kids. I mean, my son was kind of one of those ones that he will work hard, but getting up to get to work and figuring out what he wanted to do was a challenge. That's why he ended up joining the armed forces and he's a badass killing machine United States Marine, right? But when he gets out of that, he's going to have to figure out what to do. At least he's now got that work ethic built into him by being a Marine that he'll do it. But it's not just the younger age. I see it in people kind of the next generation below me in their 30s and 40s. They still have some of it, but people want easy. One thing the pandemic taught us is that once you send everybody home, working from home is a lot nicer than going to the office every day. We actually closed our property management office about 2 years before COVID. So we kind of figured out, hey, so we've already got, 60% of our team is virtual already. Why don't we send a couple of us that are local home, and it'll be easier on us because this is a stressful job. We'll be a little bit more comfortable, but as long as we're getting the work done, it's fine. Also, we save money on, we're not paying rent for our commercial space anymore. But nowadays, like, people have lost that whole aspect of you got to show up, you got to be in the office, you got to clock in. They're losing some of that camaraderie. They're anxious. I don't know what's going on with people these days, but there's a lot more anxiety. They'd rather you text than call them. So I see a lot of that with the younger generation. They avoid confrontation, or they're very uncomfortable with confrontation. It's like, guys, you get out there in the real world, whether you're in a sales job or you're a veterinarian, stuff's going to come up. You're going to have to deal with problems. And I don't want to say that they're weaker, but they're weaker. They're like weaker in the heart a little bit. They can't handle hard stuff.
Yeah. I think we got disconnected.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. We're back. We got disconnected for a while, but yeah, let me just mark the time where we got disconnected so I can edit it back. Yeah. Going back to the conversation, as you said, about the generations, I'm 19. I don't know if I've told you that before. I love the fact that my generation is waking up I have nothing against them, but waking up every day and you're seeing these people, they're lazy and they're unmotivated at what they do. That one day they're the people that you're gonna be competing with. You're just gonna crush them, especially if you have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, everybody wants to be a TikTok star now, or get paid a bunch for zero experience and not work hard. Yeah. It's like, guys, it took me a while, but I was always good at sales. But my first year in real estate, I beat the whole office of team because I had worked hard. And I came into a group that was kind of lazy. They were kind of sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. And I'm like, look, if you're not going to answer that phone, I'll answer the phone and I'll actually call some other people. I kicked all their butts. The first week I was there, I rented 6 houses and the top guy did 3. And they were like, holy moly, what is this guy doing? It's like, well, if you don't got it, you're going to get run over. So, one of the things I love about, like I said, our remote teams is they show up and they want to work and they've got a smile.
Yeah. Going back to your son, I said he was in the Marines because he didn't know what he wanted to do in life, but he got that work ethic. No, I actually think that if if you're someone who's a younger person who doesn't know what you want to do in life, instead of just going to a career, diving in and not knowing if you actually like it, go into service. Because at least after you're done, you got the work ethic and you know what you're doing because you probably had some time to think about it.
Well, I talk about this all the time. I was a straight A student. I had a full ride scholarship to college, the same college my daughter's going to go to. Yeah. And everything was paid for. And I went there and I took 8 classes and I got 8 Fs. Okay. So I totally blew it, my college thing. I could have had it easy. I could have been a professional. I wanted to be a sports trader. There's a lot of different things I could have done. And my life may have been easier, but school was easy for me. And then when I got to college, I just blew it off and didn't want to do it. So I had to start back from the ground floor. I did customer service jobs on the phone. I worked at a bar for a long time, became a DJ, then the manager. So I learned how to manage people. All of the jobs, had a little bit of sales in them, either dealing with people direct face-to-face or on the phone. So, but I had to start at the bottom. And like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people, even after 10 years of working, that wouldn't even interview me because I didn't have a college degree. But I'm like, but I've had multiple sales jobs. I've worked for big companies. I've managed, I was managing a bar that had 50 employees. So I have a lot of skills that would work in corporate America, but I couldn't get through the front door because I didn't have that degree. But nowadays, some of these kids that are going to school, they're coming out of college, even with no skill set, no steel in their veins, no want to, no ability to, like they don't know, the work ethic just isn't there. It's not being taught. So It's tough, especially, like when you talked about hiring local. When I interview somebody, man, you can tell right away if they want it or not. So you make a great point. You're going to, the way that you're coming at it at such a young age for you, yeah, you're going to steamroll people. You're going to be way out ahead.
You know, I believe that everyone should try at least a few months of being on a job where it's primarily sales. It's gonna show you what you're made of.
Yeah, sure. So it's like digging ditches. You can be sore all day and have blisters on your hands and have a sore back, or you could be mentally drained from trying to do sales. Sales is a game. It's a game. It's like any sport. There's going to be ups and downs, a little bit of battle. There's some strategery in there.
Yeah.
And, coming out with a win or a loss at the end, you might get rejected a bunch of times before you get a yes. But it's mentally draining, and you got to be sharp, and you got to be in shape, in mental shape, to be able to do it. I think sales is a great job for people. I also think manual labor is great. Manual labor teaches you that you don't want to do it forever. Yeah. But if at your young age already, anything in sales is going to make more money generally than anything you're doing with your hands, unless you're the owner of the company that does something with your hands. Then you're selling your service, right?
Yeah. So. What's funny about it is you can be the most confident, you can be the scariest person in the room, but when you're picking up that phone for your first cold call ever, that's the scariest thing you can ever feel.
Rejection is hard. Have you ever asked a girl out on a date? I mean, it's hard. There's a good chance she's going to say no. But there's a good chance that just because you asked her, there's an opportunity there. So that's like any sales. Nobody's going to buy something if you don't tell them it's for sale.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to buy something if you don't ask them if they want to buy it, right?
Absolutely. And when you're first starting out in your virtual teams, what were the biggest challenges that you've seen?
So originally, when we first found our own VAs, it was really getting equipment to the Philippines. It takes time with shipping, getting the right equipment, figuring out the right equipment that would work. So that's all, in the beginning. We're talking, 12, 13 years ago. It's a lot easier now. Mexico, of course, is easier because it's 4 hours away from us here in Arizona. But getting the physical and the equipment set up was challenging. The second biggest thing was just trying to figure out culturally how to deal with, people that we've never dealt with before. We're also on complete different time zones here. So making sure that they're actually working when they're supposed to be, they're not sleeping. I remember one of our first virtual assistants, they always had a rooster cawing in the background because she lived next to a farm. And we're like, we can't have our customers hearing the rooster in the back. We got to close the door. So simple stuff like that, just kind of figuring those things out. Now that we've done it so long and we train people how to interact, and we make sure that they're set up for success by having the right equipment, we've got a lot more tools than we used to. We're doing a video recording now. We've got Zoom, we've got Google Meet. We can text a lot easier than we could 12, 14 years ago. So there's a lot of different ways where we can stay in communication. That's really the biggest key. I think most people now, since COVID, understand how to deal with an employee that isn't in the office, right? Somebody's working remotely. Way more people understand that and have gone through it and are ready for that. Now that it's so much easier to do it with somebody in another country, it's really the same way as if your office closed for the day and everybody's working from home.
Can you talk more about the different ways you can actually hire someone as a VA? Because you can hire someone, you can source them yourself, etc.
Sure. So there's lots of different websites. Yeah. You can find virtual assistants or remote team members. It's the same thing, just different terminology. You can find local U.S. people. You can find international people from all over the place where they will post their resumes and tell you what they want. Do they want full-time? Do they want to do hourly? Are they project managers? Like there's a lot of people that just need like a social media person that can edit videos or do those type of things. If that's all you need, do they need to speak perfect English? Do they need to be great on the phone? Probably not. If you just need somebody to help with invoicing or accounting, do they need to be great on the phone? Do they need to speak perfect English? Probably not. If you need somebody to do, work in a business like ours, where it's going to be data entry and customer service and phones, then you need somebody more well-rounded. But all of these places where they can post their resumes, they will tell you what they're looking for. And then generally you get to interview them and then figure out how to pay. So the freelance style, you can still pay kind of under the table. People use PayPal and Venmo and some of those things. That's fine. That's how we got started in the business. What we really focus on now is what we call a managed virtual assistant. So we're the employment company and we find you a team member. So we've got legal businesses in Mexico and the Philippines. So we're doing correct HR, we're doing taxes, we're doing their proper vacation time, we're doing the right background checks. They're actually an employee of a company, not just a freelancer. I'm not saying that there's not a good way to do it by freelancing, but eventually, if you need a full-time person, you want them to be part of the team. You want them to get paid properly. You want them to have their vacation time, their taxes. All of those things are going to make them want to work harder for you because they feel like they're part of a true company, a legitimate company. They're getting paid properly. All of those things, vacation time, all that stuff is in there. So like I said, there's now 13 companies like mine that do this just in the property management space. And most of us are going to handle the EOR, which is employment of record, or commonly known as the HR, the human resources part. So payroll, vacation, promotions, raises, disciplinary, all of those things. So you can find a freelancer to do some stuff part-time here and there. If you're going to want to bring them on full-time, I strongly suggest that you do it the right way. Or you can come to a company like us. We're not the only one for sure that will manage the virtual assistant for you. So you just get a great team member to use, make part of your team, but we do all the background stuff for you.
And if there's anyone out there who's interested in hiring one, maybe they want to do it themselves and they don't want to hire a company, how could they do it?
So again, there's plenty of websites. There's Upwork. There's Rocket Station. We'll find a freelancer for you. Like I said, the 13 companies in my property management space, most of them, at least half of them offer what we call a direct hire, where we basically find you a freelancer. We'll go through some of the interviews, some of the testing, and give you one or two people that you can interview and then hire direct. So that's the way that still most people that get into it for the first time are generally doing that. Most of the people that call me tried that and failed at it. Okay. So they're trying to hire a freelancer, they're going direct, and then it doesn't work out for some reason. They weren't prepared. They didn't have training ready to go. Paying them became a problem. Dealing with them being in a whole nother country became more challenging than they thought. The people show up or flake out. All of those kind of things happen. It happens a lot more when you're going direct or freelance than it does if you go through an actual staffing company like us, where we can offer benefits. We're paying them legally. All of those things. It's common sense. We're going to find better people that want to stay with you a lot longer if everything's done legitimate and there's more structure to it. But either way works. Look, we were successful doing the freelance thing. We got to about 7 or 8 until we started saying, look, let's create a separate company for this, because we started asking people to help us, to have us help them do it, right?
The simple fact that you're going to be able to find better employees, I think, is one of the biggest benefits with working with someone, with a company like you, if they're interested in hiring someone, especially because you've dealt with hundreds, if not thousands of people in this space. You already know the look of the people who's not going to do well.
Sure. Well, and look, when you're trying it for the first time, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
I mean, locally, when I used to hire property managers and realtors to work for me, the interview process, you never know if they're going to show up. You don't know if personalities are going to fit. You've got to every time you hire somebody new, it's the hardest thing you're going to do. You've got to train them on everything. You've got to watch them. You've got to hold their hand. You've got to be supportive. You got to look for mistakes, all of those things. If you're jumping into this for the first time and you don't have your processes ready to go, trying to figure out your processes and train on the whim or on the fly, plus dealing with figuring out how to pay this person and deal with their different culture and their time zones and their equipment and their IT stuff. I mean, it can just be too much. Most people that need help are already buried or already behind in their business. So they need help and they're looking for a VA to bail them out. But if you've got to do everything that I just talked about on top of keep your business going that you're already underwater in, it's a challenge. So, hey, freelance and direct hire are a thing. Do it before you get buried, for sure.
Yeah.
If you're already buried and you need help, go to a staffing company like mine that can give you somebody that's a lot more structured and ready to go out of the
Yeah.
door.
I like to point out the fact that you said it's hard to pay someone in another country, and it is absolutely hard to do so. I don't think a lot of people realize it's different when you're just sending money locally, but if you're sending it overseas, it's a whole lot of other problems that you gotta deal with.
The question is, if you need help and your business is
Yeah,
drowning, do you want to learn how to become an HR team as well? Do you
yeah,
want to learn how to become an international staffing company? Or do you just need help? So, look, a lot of people like to do it their own way, and there's
yeah,
plenty of options out there to go freelance. Some of
yeah,
those websites even have payment options and those things. I just go back to the main thing. You're going to get a way better employee if they know that they're working for a real company and that you're not just going to let them go next week because you're not, busy anymore. They want to know that they're getting hired with a real company. That
yeah.
if something goes wrong, like if I place a VA with a client that doesn't need him anymore, we can immediately probably place them with another company right away. So they're not going to lose their job just because that customer decided they didn't need it or couldn't figure it out or whatever. We're going to be able to put that employee into a new space as well. And look, they're going to want to work for a company like us that know that we have their back, and it's not just, I need you this week, but not next week, right?
That's amazing. And for what are the most surprising ways that you've seen your maybe one of your VAs to actually step up and help your company?
Well, GK is the general manager of
Yeah,
Yes Virtual. So I hired her about 14 years ago to answer leasing calls. She had one job: answer the phone, ask for an ID, give out a lockbox code. And she had to do that all day long. We started realizing that she had good skills, so we started tasking her with some more things. But now, I mean, she's gone from answering the phone to now overseeing 170 employees. She handles our onboarding. She manages our Christmas parties. I mean, she is the big boss lady, and she started by answering the phone 14 years ago for us. So I tell people all the time, there's going to be some queen bees out there that you can find, and there's going to be plenty of worker bees, and you probably need both in your business. I've got plenty of VAs that work for us that have been kind of doing the same thing for 5, 6, 7 years, and they're happy with doing it. And then we get a few here and there that are obviously management material that you can promote, that you can have supervised. So we've got multiple VAs that are now supervising teams within our teams, right? Karen's one of my VAs that manages our property management team. So yeah, it's just like anybody. Personalities want to. All of those things are going to be different with everyone. But you can find those queen bees, and you can find plenty of worker bees and everything in between. We're hiring. Look, we hire people. This is not AI. This is not software. We're hiring people. John, I bet if I hired you in 2 years, you'd be running shit for me. So I believe that you've got some skills and some want to. But there's plenty of worker bees out there too that will be happy doing accounting, invoicing, and data entry work. That's okay too. My wife has been a nurse for 25 years and never wanted to be a nurse manager. Never wanted to be in charge of people. She's still just a nurse, and she catches babies now. She used to work in the ER, and she's happy being a worker bee in that field. She never wanted to be the boss lady, and she's not. So you can find both, and they're all out there, and probably every business needs a little bit of both.
yeah. Yeah, some people they don't want to manage other people. It's
Yeah,
tough because once you're in a position where you actually have their lives on your hands, just because you're in a more managerial position, you can fire them. They
sure.
don't do as well of a job. You don't become their friends anymore. You're not just another one of their peers. You become their boss, and it's tough to be in that position.
Well, and my property manager, Jason, is one of my best friends from high school,
Yeah,
but I made him be a leasing agent first, so he had to learn the hard way in our business.
yeah,
But he's happy with me dealing with the big problems, the big
yeah,
customer issues. He's fine with me being the big boss, and he handles the daily stuff, right? And we have a good working relationship in that way. He's not trying to be
yeah,
in charge of people, but he knows his job well and he performs it well. And I need him to be able to do that.
yeah,
I need him not pushing back on me when I say, hey, I'm the boss, we're going to do it this way. I need him to say, okay, and do it.
yeah,
I also need him to be able to say, hey, I got this covered. Don't micromanage me, right? So there's the balance, but I'm good at managing people. I'm good at
yeah,
doing stuff at a high level, and in delegating. He's great at focusing and getting the day-to-day stuff done. And we need both of those in our business.
That's amazing. And some companies out there might be scared that if they integrate that they already have a culture in their company and they don't want to hire someone from another culture, from another country, because they might be scared that maybe we won't be able to connect with each other. What's your take on that?
So how many people have you worked with locally? Look, sometimes people suck. I've worked with plenty of local Arizona Americans that we ended up hating and firing. So you never know. Personalities are going to be what they are. The culture thing can be a little bit scary. Usually what I find is the employees of a company that wants to add VAs get worried. They worry that the VA is going to come in and take their job away. Really what they're going to come in and do is probably do the harder, repeatable stuff that you don't like doing anyway. They're probably going to take that off your plate so that you can do more higher level stuff until they get their expertise up, right? So usually a virtual assistant comes in as an assistant. They're not coming in to take your job. They're coming in to help you so you can better do your job. You can handle, in property management and real estate, it might take 5 years, and you might have to deal with a few things a few times to be able to solve a problem. My VAs don't have to solve problems. They've got to do the stuff in the background so that Jason can be available to solve problems, right? We've got a few VAs that have been with us long enough that now they know how to solve problems. So they can also help Jason solve those minor problems when he's dealing with the big one. So people get nervous about the culture, but anytime you hire somebody, there's going to be personalities. In America now, half the time you hire somebody, they're not from Arizona, or maybe they're not even from America. They might be an immigrant from who knows where. That's just going to happen in business. You can't be afraid of personalities. If you're the boss, you got to be good at managing people, period. And everybody's personality is going to be different. I love all of our employees from the Philippines and Mexico. Everybody's a little bit different, but I'm different to them too. It's just something you got to be prepared for. You can't be afraid of it.
For someone, since COVID happened, probably a lot of people started their own businesses. The rise of solopreneurs, as they say at it. What advice would you give to those people that's maybe, when your work is being depleted because you have to do this micro task and you can't decide anymore on the big things, maybe it's time for you to hire someone, maybe hire a VA?
I think everybody that has office work in their job, everybody that's going to have office work and office tasks should look at a VA first, especially if you're starting your own company. One of the hardest things to do when you first start out is to actually make money. So people usually say, I'm going to do 60 hours a week myself until it makes money, and then I'll hire somebody. I say hire somebody way sooner than that so that they can learn the processes with you. They can understand what you're doing. They can be by your side the whole time so that when you do get ramped up and you do start getting busy, you've already got some structure in place and you can go out and do that. A lot of people fail when they try to start a business because they get overwhelmed, they spend too much money, or they're worried they're not going to make money. And a lot of times they're just overworking themselves and they end up hating it. They've got to do everything. If you're great at putting roofs on a house, you're probably not great at doing data entry, right? If you're a great salesperson, you probably are I'm a really good salesperson and I'm terrible at paperwork, right? I'm great at shooting videos. I don't know how to edit them. I'm a good talker. I'm not a good data entry person. I will make mistakes. That micro level stuff, I'm awful at. Data entry, I'm going to screw it up. Invoicing, I'm going to mess it up. But I can close a sale. I can get and if a customer is upset, I can get them happy. I can make sure we don't lose that business. But I need people underneath me that when I say, okay, we're bringing on a new person, here's the contract. I need you to put them in. I need you to set up utilities. I need you to talk to the vendor. Those are skills that I'm not great at. Yeah, I could do them, but I wouldn't be great at it. You need me out there selling. You need me out there closing deals, bringing in new business, right? So when people are starting their business, if you're really great at one thing, there's going to be 20 other things that need to happen with that business. Maybe hire somebody that you can either teach or that already knows how to do it. Maybe it's just as simple as accounting, right? You're starting your own business. You have no idea how to do accounting. Maybe at least having somebody that can enter your bills, do your invoicing, and let you know, hey, we need some money, or, so that you're just not caught at the end of the month going, oh, shoot, I need to send all these invoices or we're going to be broke tomorrow,
That's amazing. And in terms of AI, because there's been a lot of backlash, especially by the fact that a lot of jobs could be replaced. And I know it's not aware because a lot of other jobs would disappear. But what's your take in terms of some of the minor jobs that some VAs do that could now be done by AI?
Well, I know. So I'm a little bit worried about AI taking over some of their jobs, but any job where you need people, you can't take people totally out of the equation.
Yeah.
I would love if my VAs didn't have to worry about invoicing. If I could totally automate that and know that it was going to be perfect, great. There's some things that AI is already doing. It's making it easier to do some follow-ups. You can automate follow-ups. You can, there's a way, Calendly, you can schedule your own appointment now. You don't have to call and talk to somebody to schedule. There's a lot of different things that may be replaced with AI, but you can't replace people for everything. AI can't answer the phone, at least not effectively. It can't solve a problem. There's plenty of companies I'm just thinking about the property management space. It can't deal with HOAs. It can't deal with utility companies. You actually have to talk to a person, and I need a person to talk to that person. So there's always going to be plenty of that work available. I'm excited about what AI can do. That'll probably be a lot cheaper than having a person do it, right? But I don't think it's going to replace people's jobs right away. I think who should be worried is Hollywood. I think AI can make a better movie than Hollywood these days. So those actors and writers might be in trouble. But people that are in business, especially people-to-people businesses, any kind of sales, you're still going to need human beings that can do the job, talk to people, solve problems. A lot of those things that AI won't be able to do. Some of the back office stuff AI might be able to help with. I think it's going to take a while before it can totally take over, but that's great. I would love for my VAs not have to worry about invoicing. If it can take that over, perfect.
It's amazing. And by the way, have you tried one of those AI voice calls? Yeah.
We've used ChatGPT a few times. We use it to kind of help with some of our blogs. We've used it to come up with ideas I've been shooting videos for 10 years about property management and virtual assistants. So I've used it to give me 10 new video ideas.
Yeah.
I don't use it yet to write my descriptions, but I probably should. And my VA that does all of my video editing, he uses it to catch my voice. And you notice I talk fast, so sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But we're playing with it.
Yeah. There's this app called Vappy or Synflow. I don't know if you've heard them. Allows you to basically have a AI to answer your phone calls.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in my networking group, one of the guys was playing with them, and we were putting it through the test. And it was doing okay. It was catching up, but you can still tell it's AI, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I think that's fine. If I've got a vendor calling in, and all he needs is a lockbox code.
Yeah.
If I cannot waste my VA's time with that phone call, great. They can be doing something else that's not taking them off their task. But I still think, just like when you call in now and there's a phone tree, press 1 to get to this department, press 2 to get to this department. Then you press 2 and it says, give me your account number. And it takes 5, 6, 7 minutes just to get the answer, where if a human being answered, it could have been a 2-minute phone call.
Yeah.
So AI, if it's going to replace a person, it has to be better and faster. If it's not, you're just going to piss off your customers. They're not going to be happy. It's a hassle. They know every time they call in, it's going to be an irritation. But again, if it can be effective and faster and more cost effective, great. My VAs will be happy not to have to answer that call. They can be doing something else.
I think they're gonna be implemented in such a way, like when you go to those websites and you talk with their chatbots, where maybe you call a company and they have those AI voice calls first, and if they can't actually answer a question, then you get passed to a real person.
Yeah, and I usually, when I go to those, it's super irritating because I'm like, why don't you just have a VA? You could have so many VAs would love to work for you, big bank, right? Why am I going through a chatbot? It takes 4 or 5 minutes. You can't answer my question. Then I'm waiting on hold anyways for 3 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Then I get a person on the phone and they're able to solve it in 2 minutes. So this whole thing took 15 minutes and the person was able to do it in 2.
Yeah.
So AI is not there yet to replace the people. But maybe I just get frustrated. I'm like, give me a person, give me a person, give me a person.
In terms of trends, do you think there's gonna be more companies looking to hire VAs in the future?
Absolutely. So, like I said, in the property management and realtor
Yeah.
space, it's been a big deal for a long time. We weren't the first. That's where we learned about it. I'm starting to see it more and more in some of the contractor space. I've got a roofing buddy that's got two VAs. I've
Yeah.
got a landscaping guy that's got two. Our AC company hired one. We've got an insurance company that has two. So I think it's becoming more and more of a known commodity. I think some people are still afraid of it and unsure. We're just informed about it. But the more expensive things get, I mean,
Yeah.
materials cost more, labor costs more. People are looking, there's some businesses that are kind of tapped out, and adding staff can be a real profit killer, right? So those companies where adding staff is every time you need to add somebody, it really hurts the business. They're going to be looking to add VAs because it's just a much more affordable way for at least for us to do it. And I think a lot of those fears about them being foreign, them being overseas, the cultural differences, the language difference, the time difference, all of that stuff is manageable. You're in the Philippines. What time is it there that you're talking to me? You know that if you want to work in an American company or do American business, the hours aren't going to be probably what you prefer, but you're going to get a good paying job and work for a good, valid company. So all of those trade-offs, people are starting to understand it. I really love educating people about it. So I'm so glad you asked me to be on this show, because I think that people are afraid. They're going to wish they did it 3 years ago. I've been saying that same phrase for at least 10 years. 10 years ago, I started telling people, you wish you would do this 3 years ago. So all these customers that I see twice a year in property management, when they finally hire somebody, they were like, you were right. I should have done this 3 years ago. And I'm like, yeah.
What country should you hire for? What's the pros and cons for different countries? Because I noticed in your website you have one from the Philippines, you have someone in Mexico, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. So for local companies in the States, hiring somebody from Mexico can be beneficial because they're likely bilingual, and we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people in America, a lot of customers, right? A lot of customers, a lot of employees for vendors. So being able to speak Spanish is great. Mexico, their pay scale is higher. So they're a couple of dollars higher per hour than the Philippines. So the Philippines is very affordable. Culturally, I love the Philippines people and their culture because they really, almost the worst thing is they are scared to get in trouble. So if they make a mistake, I'm like, you have to tell me. You can't hide it, right? It's going to be worse if you hide it. People make mistakes. We're not perfect. I screw up all the time. Jason makes mistakes all the time. Our VAs make mistakes, but it's like, if you do, we have to know so we can fix it. So I get a little worried sometimes by Philippines people will have a meeting. I'm like, how's everything going? And everybody's quiet. I'm like, guys, you're not going to get in trouble. Just talk to me. Where Mexico, culturally, they're a lot more Americanized. So that can be good and bad. They will give you real feedback. They'll tell you if they mess something up, but they've also got a little bit more attitude. They're a lot more like hiring somebody local. So there's just differences there that I'm happy to discuss with people. We've got friends and competitors that hire from South America, Colombia, Ecuador, Honduras. We were ready to launch Yes Virtual Ukraine right before the war started. So that's a place that we will look at going back to. And then we've got a company that hires only out of India. So, there's differences with everybody, but it all depends on the work that you want them to do. I think the Philippines is probably my favorite just because they're always going to be nice, at least on the phone. Even if they're getting yelled at, they'll probably still be nice. And then, in Mexico, there's a good chance that they'll argue back a little bit.
I watched someone because I was visiting a friend's house. They were answering calls. They were VAs. They were answering calls from people from customer support, and you know how angry those customer supports can be. Oh man, it was so funny watching it. It was like, yes, ma'am, I can help you. And he was punching himself because he's so frustrated. But the funny thing is, he remained his composure.
So that's it. Look, I'm the worst at that. I still get frustrated when I'm like, you don't understand what I'm asking you. But I try to be better at that now because, we've been doing this now for many years. Look, when we first started hiring virtual assistants, they started taking maintenance calls. They didn't understand that an air conditioner can be on the roof, and that can cause a leak and cause water to come through the ceiling, or it could be rain, right? So we had to teach them, if there's water coming in from the roof, ask them if it's raining, because in the Philippines, they just assumed it was raining. So some of that stuff you have to learn, and that's all business specific. But look, like I said, it's not software, it's not AI, it's people, and people can learn. And you guide your employees too, whether it's a virtual employee or a local employee. Are they great on the phones? Keep them on the phones. If they're not great on the phones, find something else for them to do. Like I said, I suck at data entry. You don't want me doing the data entry, right? So I don't do it. You need me talking to people. I'm better at that. So find it with any employee, virtual or not, find what their lane is and push them in that lane and give them more responsibility in that lane.
Absolutely. And since we're nearing the end of the podcast, one of the questions that I want to ask is, why do you think this newer generation is, lazier?
Because everything's easier. They've got the world at their fingertips on their phone. Mom and dad will help pay for them. There's a lot of excuses, at least in America right now. Houses are harder to buy because they're more expensive. Rent is way more, so it's harder to have an entry-level job and be able to afford your own place. So a lot of people are staying at home. Our society has taught people that working hard doesn't get you where you want to be, and that's totally untrue. It's a lie. It's a lie that our society and that our media and that our movies and our TV shows push to people. So people want to get rich quick. They want action right away. They want to be famous. They see famous people on social media and they think that's the way to go. It looks fun. It looks easy. Look, these rich social media people, they work hard. They're shooting all the time. They're doing stuff. Yeah, they've got a good life, but you're not likely to be that person. I always wanted to play in the NFL. There's hundreds of thousands of men and boys that play football every single day, and only about 10,000 of them ever play in the NFL, right? And it's only a few hundred a year that ever make the NFL. So football now is a great hobby, and I like to watch it, but I figured out I could have a career in real estate even with flunking out of college, right? Have a backup plan, but get out there and do the work. My daughter hates her job right now. She works at the yoga place. She doesn't like dealing with people that much. She gets bored, but she's making money, and she knows, and I tell her, doing this hard stuff that you don't like is going to make you better for the future. You're now going to know how to deal with people, happy and sad, or mad. You're out there, you're doing it. I know it's not your favorite thing to do, and she understands. She doesn't want to do it forever, but she knows she's learning skills that will help her later in life.
I bet you're telling your daughter, if she doesn't want to go to work, that there's someone in the Philippines who's willing to take your job.
Yeah, for sure.
I think one of the biggest frustrations that the younger generation have is, since it's probably impossible for me to get a house because of the high costs right now, what even bother?
So that's the misconception.
Absolutely.
You can still get a house. You just have to get a better job. The problem is everything got so expensive. You used to be able to have a 2-income household where people had an average job, like a nurse and a cop, or a teacher and a firefighter, right? Those 2 incomes used to be able to afford a house. Now, that may or may not be true. And I think things will change. It's got to come back down a little bit. The biggest problem young people have is they're not thinking about the future. If they start saving now, if they open an IRA or an investment account now, and every check they put $100 into, by the time they're 30, they might have $50,000 in there, and they can pull it out and use it for a down payment, right? But we like to use DoorDash. We like to go out to eat. We like to buy $7, $8 coffees. We like to, have the newest clothes, have the newest phone. Shoot, a new iPhone costs $1,000. And there's some people that every time a new one comes out, they go out and get a new $1,000 phone. Yeah. It's like your one from 2 years ago still works. So keeping up with the Joneses is a thing. Everybody wants to be flashy. They want to do what's now. And I think, a lot of it's education. Parents my age that have kids my age, not all of us are great about teaching them how to to save. They're okay with their kids staying at home because we don't want them to leave. I don't want my kid to leave. But I want her to learn how to be an adult, and she's got to figure it out on her own. So I have to push her, even though it's hard for me emotionally. I've got to push her to do hard things. But I think, the laziness just comes. It's not just them. It's society. It's parenting. Some of us parents aren't great.
Yeah.
They call us helicopter parents. We're trying to do everything for them. You really got to rip that Band-Aid off, let them feel some pain, let them learn, because we can't be there forever. So they've got to figure it out on their own.
And I also think that there's a factor where, because of social media, they think that they need to have something right now because some other person have that. That sucks because they shouldn't feel that. They should just be focused on their own lives, but they're not able to do so.
They've got to learn that they got to earn some things.
Absolutely.
You can't eat out for every meal. Yeah. Sometimes you got to cook, and sometimes it's not going to be the best. Sometimes you got to eat bologna sandwiches all week.
And some people, they're not willing to make the sacrifices. Some people, I see some people who I'm out earning and they have this $1,000 worth of iPhone. I have a 6-year-old phone.
Yeah.
How the heck are you affording that? Why are you buying that stupid stuff? You shouldn't be.
If you don't save for the future, you're gonna be chasing the dragon the whole time. You'll never own anything. You'll never have generational wealth. You have to work till you're dead. You won't be able to retire. If you always want that new iPhone, you'll never be able to stop working.
Yeah.
But people don't understand that investing now will make a big difference in the future.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
When I first started dating my wife again, I didn't have much, but I knew that what I was doing, I was working at a bar, managing a bar. It was a fun job, but I knew I wasn't saving. And I said, all right, I need to get into real estate. First year I did well. We put some money away. We tried to buy some rental houses. We did some things. Then now I teach people how to buy investment homes and how to save. And now we're doing things. Trust me, I wish what I'm doing now I would have done in my 20s. I'd be retiring in 2 years.
Yeah. With credit cards, some people can't afford to be stupid with their money. Some people, when they realize that, I'm doing this wrong, they're already so much in debt that they can't go back up.
My first week in college, I got signed up for 2 credit cards because they were giving away free T-shirts or something. And one was like a $300 limit. One was like a $500. I bought a new snowboard and I pulled cash out and I went to Mexico for a week. I paid that debt off for almost 5 years. That $800 took me almost 5 years to pay off. I had no idea what it was going to do to me. Pulling out the cash was like 25% interest. It was just stupid.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is free money. I didn't understand it. My mom never taught me about it. When they sign you up for a credit card, they're not telling you to be careful. They're saying, hey, here's your PIN number. Go have fun. But again, I wanted that instant gratification. I wanted a new snowboard. I already had 2 snowboards. They were just old and beat up. I didn't need one, but I wanted one. And I paid for that thing for, like I said, like 5 years.
Yeah. With credit card, everyone is becoming the perfect avatar for the World Economic Forum. Own nothing and be happy.
Well, and look, especially here in the United States, they're trying to do that. There's huge corporations that are trying to buy all the rental properties, saying, you can rent from us, we'll keep the appreciation. And like you said, you'll own it and you won't own anything and you'll be happy. Don't worry, we'll own it for you and we can charge you whatever we want. And people are mad that the rents are high, but it's like, well, all these companies are buying the houses out from under you because you didn't save and you're not able to.
Yeah.
If you want to compete, you got to at least own what you can and invest and save. Look, I'm not a financial advisor. I teach people how to buy real estate. But man, I wish somebody would have taught me this stuff I know now 25 years ago.
No, it's funny. Everything is becoming so expensive that in my own prediction, probably in the next century, there's going to be a lot of slaves. They're working their ass off for nothing.
We technically already have it. Everybody that makes our iPhones, everybody that works in China, it's already happening. So you're not wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's why I'm working, even I'm just 19, I'm working the hardest as I can because I don't want my kids to be that way.
Yeah.
Stuff. And, people in my generation, they're just seeing the next car that they can buy. But pretty soon, your kids won't be able to buy them because they won't be able to buy their own food.
I'm very lucky that my wife has never cared about fancy things. We like to do vacations and stuff, but we don't want to work forever. So she's really helped push me into save and to invest. because we understand, look, we've got kids. Our kids think we're cool.
Yeah.
I don't need everybody else to think I'm cool, right?
Yeah.
My kids think we're cool enough. So I don't need the brand new electric Hummer that just came out, even though it looks really cool. I don't need to spend $100,000 on a car. I'd rather have that money when I'm 55 to be able to do a month-long vacation if I want.
Yeah, absolutely. And
looking cool. You know?
yeah, since we're nearing the end of the podcast, do you have any advice for life?
Work hard, be honest, and be nice.
It's amazing. And
if you're honest, people will know it. If you're nice, people will want to work with you.
Yeah.
And if you work hard, people will respect that, and you'll respect yourself.
That's great.
It was so fun, man. Thank you for having me as a guest, and I'm rooting for you. Let me know if you need a job.
That's all for today's episode of the New World Podcast. We have explored some fascinating topics with our amazing guests, shedding light on the upcoming New World. If you enjoyed today's episode and today's discussion and want to stay updated on the future episodes, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to the podcast. And if you found value on what we have discussed, please consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, or if you are interested in being a guest in the future, please feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn or email me at john.paul@aicinix.com and add New World Podcast, all capital, in the subject line so I can see it. I always love hearing from our listeners. And don't forget to check out our amazing guests. You can find more information about them by the contact details we provided earlier. Again, thank you for tuning in on the New World Podcast. I know your time is very important, and I try to always make the next episode better than the last. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep innovating. This is John Paul Flores signing off from the New World Podcast.